The message that changed everything, the message arrived on a Tuesday morning, transmitted through quantum channels that humanity had only recently learned to decode. Ambassador Rebecca Chen stood in the observation deck of Titan Station, watching. Saturn's rings shimmer in the pale sunlight when her aide burst through the sealed doors. Ambassador, we have a Priority 1 transmission from everyone, Lieutenant Torres said, his face pale. The entire Galactic Sovereignty Alliance is demanding immediate contact. Rebecca turned from the viewport, her dark eyes sharp with concern. At 52, she had spent the last decade as Earth's primary diplomatic representative to the few alien species that had made contact with humanity. But this was different. The GSA represented 847 known species across the galaxy, and they had never spoken to Earth directly. Put it through to the main communications array, she ordered, straightening her formal diplomatic jacket, and get me a direct line to Earth Command. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing a creature that defied easy description. Chancellor Vexter of the Morden species stood over 3 meters tall, with crystalline skin that reflected light in disturbing patterns. Behind him, representatives from dozens of other species formed a semicircle of alien authority. Greetings. Primitive species of the third planet. Vexter's voice resonated through universal translators, each word carefully chosen for maximum condescension. We are the Galactic Sovereignty Alliance, the governing body of all civilized life in this galaxy. You have been observed. Rebecca kept her expression neutral, though her heart rate increased. She had trained for this moment, but no amount of preparation could fully ready someone for first contact with a galactic empire. We have been conducting detailed analysis of your species for the past solar cycle, Vexter continued. Your technological development, while impressive for such a young race, has progressed along dangerous paths. Your weapons of mass destruction, your aggressive expansion beyond your home world, and your complete disregard for established galactic protocols cannot be tolerated. The Chancellor's crystalline features shifted, creating patterns that somehow conveyed menace. Therefore, the Galactic Sovereignty Alliance issues this ultimatum to the species known as humans. You will submit to our authority within 72 of your Earth hours. You will surrender all weapons capable of planetary destruction. You will cease all military activities beyond your home system. You will accept our appointed governors to oversee your transition to civilized behavior. Rebecca felt her diplomatic training kick in, suppressing the surge of anger that threatened to color her response. Chancellor Vexter, while we appreciate the alliance's concern for galactic stability, humanity has never agreed to any such authority. We are a sovereign species with the right to determine our own path. A sound that might have been laughter echoed from several of the alien representatives. Vexter's crystalline skin pulsed with what Rebecca had learned was amusement among his species. Sovereignty is earned, not declared, he said. You possess neither the wisdom nor the strength to claim such status. Your species has existed for mere millennia, while some of us have guided galactic civilization for millions of years. You will comply or face corrective measures. And if we refuse, Rebecca asked, keeping her voice steady, then you will be corrected, Vexter replied simply. Your military capabilities have been assessed. Your technology is generations behind our own. Your numbers, while impressive by your standards, are insignificant compared to our combined forces. Compliance is not optional. It is inevitable. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving Rebecca alone with the weight of humanity's first galactic ultimatum. Earth's response, within 6 hours. Every major world leader had gathered in the emergency session chamber beneath the Swiss Alps. The room, designed to withstand nuclear assault, now hosted discussions about threats from across the galaxy. President James Morrison, a former military officer whose grey hair and weathered face spoke of difficult decisions, stood at the head of the table. Around him sat the leaders of every major nation, along with Admiral Marcus Stone, commander of Earth's combined defense fleets. "Ladies and gentlemen," Morrison began, his voice carrying the gravity of the moment, "we face a choice that will define humanity's future. Submit to alien rule, or stand firm and face the consequences." "The consequences could be extinction," pointed out Chancellor Weber of the European Federation. "We've seen what their technology can do. Their ships phase through solid matter. Their weapons can disintegrate asteroids." Admiral Stone leaned forward, his scarred hands clasped on the table. At 68, he had spent his entire adult life preparing for conflicts that seemed increasingly small compared to this moment. "With respect, Mr. President, we don't know what their technology can do," Stone said. "We know what they've chosen. To show us there's a difference." "Explain," Morrison ordered. "Every species that joins the GSA undergoes the same process. Ultimatum, demonstration of force, submission. But they've never faced a species that said no. They've never had to actually fight a war." Stone's eyes were hard. "They're administrators, not warriors. They've forgotten what real conflict looks like." Dr. Elena Busker's, Earth's chief xenobiologist, nodded in agreement. "My analysis of their behavioral patterns suggests they rely entirely on intimidation. Notice how they gave us 72 hours. That's not strategic thinking. That's bureaucratic procedure." Morrison turned to Admiral Stone. "What are our actual capabilities?" Stone activated a holographic display showing Earth's military assets. "Officially, we have 12 orbital defense platforms, 47 destroyer-class vessels, and 6 dreadnought-class ships. That's what they observed during their surveillance." "Unofficially," Morrison asked. "Unofficially, we've been preparing for this conversation for 20 years, ever since we detected their monitoring signals." Stone's expression was grim. "Project Prometheus has been building assets they can't detect. Stealth ships using quantum masking technology. Weapons systems based on principles they've never encountered. And most importantly, manufacturing capabilities they can't track." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Morrison looked around the table, seeing fear, determination, and something else in the faces of Earth's leaders: pride. "They made one crucial mistake," Morrison said quietly. "They assumed we would be afraid." The secret arsenal deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a facility that officially didn't exist. Commander Sarah Mitchell walked through corridors that hummed with barely contained energy. The Deep Strike naval base had been constructed over 15 years, carved from seamounts, and hidden behind gravitational anomalies that made detection nearly impossible. "Status report," she called to her engineering chief as she entered the main hangar bay. "All systems green," Commander, Chief Petty Officer Kim reported. "The Ghost Fleet is ready for deployment." Mitchell looked out at the 30 ships that floated in the underwater hangar. They were unlike anything in Earth's official navy, sleek, angular, and constructed from materials that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Each one was a masterpiece of human engineering, designed specifically to counter alien technology. "The Wraith drives are functioning perfectly," Kim continued. "We can phase shift through solid matter just like they can. The difference is We can do it while firing. And the Prometheus weapons? Mitchell asked. Loaded and ready. Quantum disruptors, gravitational mines, and the experimental nova charges. Kim's expression was serious. Ma'am, if we use those nova charges, there won't be much left of anything in the target area. Mitchell nodded grimly. The nova charges were humanity's ultimate weapon, devices that could temporarily recreate the conditions inside a star. They had been built as a last resort, but she suspected they might be needed sooner than anyone had hoped. Commander, her communications officer called out, "We're receiving coded transmission from Earth Command. Admiral Stone wants to speak with you directly." Mitchell made her way to the secure communication chamber, where Admiral Stone's face appeared on the quantum-encrypted channel. "Sarah, it's time," Stone said without preamble. "They've given us 72 hours to surrender. We're going to give them something else entirely." "What are your orders, sir?" "Phase 1 of Operation Defiance begins in 18 hours. You and the Ghost Fleet will take position at the edge of the system. When they arrive to enforce their ultimatum, you'll show them what happens when they threaten humanity." Mitchell felt a cold smile cross her face. "Understood, Admiral. We'll be ready." The countdown begins. As the 72-hour deadline approached, the galaxy watched with curiosity. The GSA had never faced rejection before. Their previous ultimatums had always resulted in quick submission, followed by the integration of new species into their vast bureaucracy. Chancellor Vexter stood in the command center of the massive station that served as the Alliance's mobile headquarters. Around him, representatives from hundreds of species monitored the situation on Earth. "Have they responded to our ultimatum?" he asked his aide, a spider-like creature from the Caetani species, **. "No formal response, Chancellor. However, our monitoring stations have detected increased military activity throughout their system. They appear to be ... preparing for something." Vexter's crystalline skin shifted in patterns that conveyed amusement. "Preparing for what? They cannot hope to resist our authority. Their entire species could fit into one of our smaller city ships. Perhaps, Chancellor, but their behavior is ... unusual. Previous species at this stage typically begin surrender." Negotiations. "The humans have gone silent except for standard diplomatic channels." "Irrelevant," Vexter declared. "Prepare the enforcement fleet. If they refuse to submit peacefully, we will demonstrate why resistance is futile." Back on Earth, the final preparations were underway. In secret facilities around the world, weapons that had never been tested in combat were being loaded onto ships that had never been detected. Soldiers who had trained for scenarios that seemed impossible were making final preparations for a battle that would determine humanity's fate. Ambassador Rebecca Chen stood once again in the observation deck of Titan Station, but this time she was not alone. Admiral Stone had arrived with a small fleet of escort vessels, their presence a clear signal that Earth's response would not be diplomatic. "Any word from Earth Command?" she asked. Stone nodded grimly. "President Morrison will address the Alliance. In 6 hours, the deadline ends at noon, Earth Standard Time. And then we find out what we're really made of," Stone replied, his eyes fixed on the stars beyond Saturn's rings. "They wanted to see if humanity would kneel. They're about to discover that we don't even know how." As the final hours ticked away, both sides prepared for a confrontation that would reshape the galaxy. The GSA, confident in their overwhelming superiority, mobilized their enforcement fleet. Earth, drawing on reserves of determination and ingenuity, that had carried humanity through countless conflicts, prepared to make a stand that would echo across the stars. The ultimatum had been delivered. Earth's response was coming, and the galaxy would never be the same. Earth's answer at exactly noon. Earth Standard Time. President James Morrison's face appeared on every communication channel in the galaxy. The transmission was broadcast simultaneously from Earth, Mars, Luna, and every human colony ship in the outer system. The message was simple, direct, and absolutely clear. To the Galactic Sovereignty Alliance, and to all who would hear this message. Morrison began, his voice carrying the weight of 7 billion souls. We have considered your ultimatum. We have deliberated on your demands. We have evaluated your threats. Morrison paused, his weathered face showing no sign of fear or uncertainty. Behind him, the flags of every nation on Earth hung in silent unity. Our answer is no. The words echoed across the galaxy, transmitted through quantum channels that carried them to every corner of civilized space. On stations and ships throughout, the GSA alien representatives stared in disbelief at the human leader who had just done the impossible. We are humanity, Morrison continued, his voice growing stronger with each word. We are the children of a world that has known conflict, struggle, and triumph. We have fought for every advance, earned every victory, and paid the price for every mistake. We have looked into the darkness and chose to light a candle rather than curse the shadows. Chancellor Vexter watched the transmission from his command center, his crystalline features shifting through patterns of confusion and rage. Around him, the representatives of 847 species struggled to process what they were witnessing. You offer us submission in exchange for peace, Morrison said. But peace without freedom is not peace at all. It is merely the absence of dignity. You threaten us with correction, as if we were children who have broken your rules. But we never agreed to play by your rules. We never asked for your protection. We never sought your approval. The President's expression hardened. You have 72 hours to withdraw your enforcement fleet from our system. If you do not, we will consider it an act of war, and if you want a war with humanity, you will have one. The transmission ended. For a moment, the galaxy held its breath, then Chancellor Vexter began to laugh. The enforcement fleet, the GSA enforcement fleet, was a sight to behold. 47 ships ranging from escort vessels to massive dreadnoughts, representing the combined military might of dozens of species. They moved through space in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with the advanced materials that made them virtually indestructible. Commander Zeftal of the Vorthan species stood on the bridge of the flagship Dominator, watching as the Sol system grew larger on the tactical display. His people had been part of the GSA for over 1,000 years, and in that time he had overseen the integration of 17 different species. None had ever required more than a demonstration of force. Status report, he ordered, his forearms moving in the graceful gestures that served as his species' equivalent of pacing. All ships report ready. Commander, his tactical officer replied. The human fleet appears to be forming a defensive line near their 4th planet. 12 platforms, 47 destroyer-class vessels, and 6 dreadnoughts. Exactly as our intelligence predicted. Zefdal's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. They're making this easy for us. A static defense allows us to engage on our terms. Sir, should we attempt to contact them one final time? Offer them a chance to surrender? No, Zefdal replied firmly. They had their chance. Now they will learn why the GSA has maintained peace for millennia. What Commander Zefdol didn't know was that the human fleet he could see was only part of the story, hidden throughout. The system, 30 Ghost Fleet vessels, waited in quantum stealth, their crews watching the alien formation approach with cold professionalism. Commander Sarah Mitchell stood on the bridge of the stealth ship Phantom, her eyes fixed on the tactical display showing the approaching GSA fleet. Her ship and its sister vessels were invisible to every sensor the aliens possessed, positioned to strike from unexpected angles. Range to target, she asked quietly. 18,000 kilometers and closing, her navigator reported. The alien fleet is maintaining formation. They appear to be heading straight for our visible defense line. Mitchell activated her communication array, broadcasting on the encrypted channel that connected all of Earth's hidden assets. All Ghost Fleet vessels, this is Phantom Actual. Prepare for Operation Defiance, Phase 2. We go active in 60 seconds. The Battle of Europa Station, the HFY fleet approached the human defense line with the confidence of predators who had never met real resistance. Their ships moved in textbook formation, weapons charging, shields at maximum power. They had done this so many times that it had become routine. That confidence lasted exactly 17 seconds after they entered weapons range. The first indication that something was wrong came when the human defensive platforms didn't behave as expected. Instead of opening fire immediately, they began to move, their massive structures shifting and reconfiguring in ways that shouldn't have been possible. Commander, the human platforms are changing, the tactical officer reported, confusion evident in his voice. Zefdol leaned forward, watching as what he had assumed were static weapons platforms revealed themselves to be something far more sophisticated. The structures were unfolding, revealing weapon systems that his sensors couldn't identify. Those aren't platforms, he realized with growing alarm. Those are mobile weapon systems. Before he could issue orders, the human defense line erupted in coordinated fire. But these weren't the primitive kinetic weapons the GSA had expected. Beams of coherent energy that seemed to bend space itself lanced out from the human positions, striking the alien formation with devastating effect. The lead GSA destroyer simply vanished, its hull unable to withstand weapons that operated on principles the aliens had never encountered. 2 more ships followed, their shields useless against attacks that bypassed conventional defenses entirely. Evasive maneuvers, Zefdol shouted, but his confusion was about to get much worse. The Ghost Fleet revealed itself all at once, 30 ships materializing from quantum stealth in perfect attack formation. They had positioned themselves above and below the GSA fleet, creating a 3-dimensional kill zone that trapped the aliens in a deadly crossfire. Commander Mitchell watched as her carefully laid plans unfolded with mechanical precision. All units engage at will. Show them what happens when they threaten Earth. The Phantom's weapon systems came online, quantum disruptors that could tear apart matter at the molecular level. The ship's first salvo struck a GSA cruiser amidships, the alien vessel's hull simply dissolving under the assault. Across the battlefield, human technology that had been hidden for decades revealed itself in spectacular fashion. Gravitational minds that could crush a ship in its own distorted space-time, phase cannons that could ignore shields entirely, and experimental weapons that pushed the boundaries of what was possible. The GSA fleet, designed to intimidate rather than fight, found itself outmaneuvered, outgunned, and completely unprepared for an enemy that had spent 20 years preparing for this exact moment. The tide turns, *. Commander Zefdol watched in horror as his enforcement fleet was systematically destroyed. Ships that had served the GSA for centuries were being torn apart by weapons that shouldn't have existed. The humans weren't just fighting back, they were winning, sir. We've lost 17 ships, his tactical officer reported, voice tight with panic. The remaining vessels are requesting permission to withdraw. Denied, Zeftel snarled. We cannot retreat from a primitive species. The entire galaxy is watching. But even as he spoke, he knew the battle was lost. The human fleet moved with a coordination that spoke of extensive training and preparation. Their weapons were devastatingly effective, and their tactics were unlike anything in the GSAS databases. Sir, incoming transmission from the human fleet, his communications officer announced. Put it through, Zeftel ordered, hoping for a chance to salvage something from this disaster. Commander Mitchell's face appeared on the screen, her expression cold and professional. GSA Fleet, this is Commander Mitchell of the Terran Defense Force. You are ordered to withdraw from this system immediately. Any vessel that does not comply will be destroyed. Zeftel's mandibles clicked in frustration. You cannot hope to stand against the full might of the GSA. This fleet is merely the beginning. Then bring more fleets, Mitchell replied calmly. We'll be here waiting. The transmission ended, leaving Zeftel alone with the wreckage of his once mighty fleet. Around him, the surviving ships were already beginning to withdraw their crews. Shaken by an encounter they had never imagined possible, the declaration of independence as news of the GSAS defeat spread across the galaxy. Emergency sessions were called on every major world. The impossible had happened. A primitive species had not only refused to submit to the GSAS authority, but had actually defeated their enforcement fleet. Chancellor Vexter stood before the assembled representatives of 847 species. His crystalline features dimmed with shock and rage. This cannot be tolerated, he declared. A single species cannot be allowed to defy the galactic order. We must respond with overwhelming force. But even as he spoke, Vexter could see doubt in the eyes of his allies. The humans had demonstrated capabilities that no one had suspected. Their weapons were unlike anything in the GSAS arsenal, and their tactics suggested a level of strategic thinking that challenged fundamental assumptions about primitive species. On Earth, President Morrison addressed the world from the steps of the rebuilt United Nations headquarters. Behind him, the flags of every nation flew alongside a new banner, the flag of the Terran Republic, a symbol of humanity's independence from all galactic authority. Today, we have proven that freedom is not negotiable, Morrison declared to the assembled crowd and the cameras that carried his words across the galaxy. We have shown that the right to determine our own destiny is not subject to the approval of others, no matter how powerful they may seem. The crowd erupted in cheers, but Morrison raised his hand for silence. But this is only the beginning. The GSA will not accept our independence easily. They will come again with larger fleets and more devastating weapons. They will try to crush us before we can inspire others to follow our example. His expression hardened. Let them come. We are ready. The Terran Liberation Front in the weeks following the Battle of Europa Station. Something unprecedented began to happen throughout the galaxy. Species that had been subjugated by the GSA for centuries began to whisper about the humans who had said no. Underground movements that had been dormant for generations began to stir. Dr. Elena Baskis, now serving as Earth's chief diplomatic advisor, reviewed the intelligence reports with growing amazement. It's incredible, she told Admiral Stone, as they met in the secure briefing room beneath Geneva. We're receiving contact requests from 17 different species, They want to know how we did it. Stone nodded grimly. The GSA's power has always been based on the belief that resistance is impossible. We've shattered that belief. Now they're facing something they've never dealt with before: hope. What do we do about it? Vasquez asked. We help them, Stone replied without hesitation. We share our technology, our tactics, our determination. We show them that freedom is possible. That's a war, Marcus. Not just against the GSA, but against the entire established order of the galaxy. Stone's scarred face showed no emotion. Then that's the war we'll fight. We didn't ask for this, but we won't run from it either. The new alliances, the GSA, struggled to maintain control over increasingly restless member species. Earth began to forge new alliances. The Terran Liberation Front, as it came to be known, grew from a single species rebellion into a galaxy-spanning movement. Commander Sarah Mitchell, now promoted to Admiral and given command of the expanding Ghost Fleet, met with representatives from the Keldan resistance movement on a neutral space station near the galactic rim. The Keldan were a proud warrior species that had been forced into the GSA centuries earlier, their military traditions suppressed in favor of bureaucratic compliance. Your weapons are impressive, the Keldan leader, a scarred veteran named Thakta, observed as he examined the technical specifications Mitchell had provided. But it is your spirit that truly matters. You have shown us that the GSA can be defied. Defied, yes, Mitchell agreed, but not easily defeated. They have resources we can't match, ships we can't count, and the advantage of time. They've been building their empire for millions of years, but they have forgotten how to fight. Thakta pointed out, your victory proved that. They rely on fear and intimidation because they have never faced real resistance. Mitchell nodded. That's our advantage, but it won't last forever. They're adapting, learning from their mistakes. The next time they come for us, they'll be ready. Then we must be ready too, Thakta declared. The Keldan will fight alongside humanity. Together, we will show the galaxy that freedom is worth any price. The coming storm as the first year of the Terran Liberation Front drew to a close. Both sides prepared for the greater conflict that was sure to come. The GSA had spent months regrouping, analyzing human technology, and developing new strategies to deal with the threat that Earth represented. Chancellor Vexter stood in the war room of the massive fortress station that served as the GSA's military headquarters. Around him, the greatest strategic minds of 847 species worked to solve the problem that humanity had become. Status report, he ordered. The research divisions have made progress in understanding human weapons technology, his aide reported. Our new shield configurations should provide better protection against their quantum disruptors. The phase cannon threat has been addressed with adaptive armor plating, and the resistance movements growing, the aide admitted reluctantly. 47 species have now experienced some form of uprising. The humans are providing weapons, training, and coordination. They're turning scattered rebellions into a coordinated insurgency. Vexter's crystalline features shifted through patterns of determination and rage. Then we must end this quickly, before it spreads further. How many ships can we deploy? The Grand Fleet consists of 1,200 vessels, Chancellor. Every ship we possess, drawn from every member species. Good, Vexter decided. We will crush the human rebellion with overwhelming force. We will make an example of them that will discourage any other species from following their path. Back on Earth, Admiral Stone stood in the same observation deck where Ambassador Chen had first received the GSA's ultimatum. But now, instead of looking at empty space, he watched as the largest fleet in human history prepared for deployment. "How many ships do we have?" he asked General Hassan al-Rashid, Earth's chief military strategist. 800 vessels, counting our new allies. Al-Rashid replied, "The Keldan have contributed 70 ships, the Zephyrians 43, and the others are bringing what they can." "Against 1,200 GSA vessels," Stone observed, "we're still outnumbered, but not outclassed," al-Rashid pointed out. "Our technology is superior, our tactics are better, and our crews are fighting for something the GSA can't understand." Stone nodded, watching as the last of the Ghost Fleet vessels disappeared into quantum stealth. "They're about to learn what happens when you corner a species that has nothing left to lose." The galaxy held its breath as two massive fleets prepared to meet in the darkness between the stars. The GSA representing the established order of millions of years, against the Terran Liberation Front, fighting for the right to determine their own destiny. The war that would reshape the galaxy was about to begin, and at its center stood humanity, the species that had refused to kneel and in doing so had shown the galaxy what freedom truly meant. The ultimatum had been delivered. Earth had declared war, and the galaxy would never be the same. Asterisk.